Hi there, my name is Joy Kelleher and I am an Occupational Science PhD student based in University College Cork. Today I will be demonstrating one way of understanding occupation using Ray Land's Threshold Concepts framework. First, we need to put the term occupation in context. So when I use the word occupation, I am using it in relation to the disciplines of occupational therapy and occupational science. So starting with occupational therapy, it is a client-centered health profession concerned with promoting health and well-being through occupation. The primary goal of occupational therapy is to enable people to participate in the activities of everyday life. Occupational therapists achieve this outcome by working with people and communities to enhance their ability to engage in the occupations they want to, need to, or are expected to do by modifying the occupation or the environment to better support their occupational engagement. Occupational science, then, is the systematic study of the human as an occupational being, with an emphasis on the provision of multidimensional description of the substrates, form, function, meaning, and sociocultural and historical contexts of occupation. So next we're going to look at a few of the ways to misunderstand occupation. So the word occupation in usual English usually refers to a person's job, their work, their employment. It can also refer to the action or state of occupying or being occupied by a military force. And the word occupation is also used to describe the action of living in or using a certain building or another place. But the word occupation means something very different in the context of occupational science and occupational therapy. So next I'm going to introduce you to the Threshold Concepts framework. So this framework was developed by Meyer and Land and proposes that every discipline has a set of transformational concepts that students must acquire in order to progress. As students acquire the threshold concepts, they develop a transformed view of course content, which contributes to developing their expertise. This transformation is considered irreversible and integrative, allowing students to better comprehend how things are interrelated within their discipline. So back to my discipline in occupational therapy and occupational science, occupation has been identified as one of the primary threshold concepts in this discipline. So next we're going to look at applying the threshold concepts framework in occupational therapy and occupational science. So by using this framework, occupational therapy students learn how to use an occupational perspective in theory and in practice. Without understanding threshold concepts like the concept of occupation, students will not develop this occupational perspective or transformed way of understanding. The learner then cannot progress forward, as this view of subject matter is central to the ways of thinking and practicing within a discipline. So again, the example of occupation here in occupational therapy. Therefore, threshold concepts are irreversible, integrative, bringing together new concepts with past learning. So there are many reasons or benefits for using threshold concepts in occupational science and occupational therapy, starting with the need for ready-to-work graduates, and the complexity and diversity of the work undertaken is ever increasing. The threshold concept framework also provides scholars with a vocabulary as well as a conceptual framework for discussing transformed views of understanding. The threshold concept framework is also an analytic framework that can be used to investigate student learning as well as barriers to this, working both as a research tool and a curriculum design tool. The use of threshold concepts also has the potential to open up discussions and co-inquiry among subject experts, students, educational researchers within the disciplines of occupational therapy and occupational science. This process ensures cohesiveness between OT education, research and practice, and aligns with the threshold concepts framework pursuit of shared understandings of difficulties and shared ways of mastering these understandings. So by now you've heard me say that occupation is a core threshold concept in the disciplines of occupational science and occupational therapy. So this was first identified by Fortune and Kennedy Jones in 2014. Occupation as a threshold concept has been defined as understanding that occupation is broad and that humans are occupational beings. This also includes understanding the importance of occupation as being personally meaningful, using occupation as the focus of intervention, and recognizing that meaningful occupation is linked with health and well-being. Students learn to see the world through occupation and view clients through the meaningful activities they engage in each day. This occupational perspective is described as a way of looking at or thinking about human doing, and this is essential to one's clinical reasoning as an occupational therapist. So before I go, I will finish up by defining the term occupation within the context of occupational science and occupational therapy. So occupation is derived from the Latin root occupatio, meaning to seize or take possession. These terms convey action, employment, and anticipation. To engage in occupation is to take control. Occupation also has economic and organizational implications. Occupation enables humans to be economically self-sufficient and is the primary organizer of time and resources. In occupational therapy, occupations refer to the everyday activities that people do as individuals, in their families, and with their communities to occupy time and bring meaning and purpose to their lives. Occupations include things people need to do, want to do, and things they are expected to do. And engagement in occupations influences health. Final definition of occupation, my favorite definition of occupation, is occupation refers to specific chunks of activity within the ongoing stream of human behavior, which are named in the lexicon of the culture, for example, fishing or cooking, or at a more abstract level, playing or working. These daily pursuits are self-initiated, goal-directed, and socially sanctioned. They are constituted of adapted skills, which are organized and are optimally, though not always, personally satisfying. So just to conclude, I will be summarising the key benefits of using threshold concepts in occupational science and occupational therapy. So first one is it contributes to the development of an occupational perspective. It also provides a vocabulary and framework for discussing student learning. It opens up discussions on our terminology and our theory. It provides an analytic framework that can be used to investigate learning. And threshold concepts can also be used to monitor student learning and progression over the years. Here is a sample of the references that I drew on when designing this presentation. And finally, I would like to say thanks for listening, and I hope you learned something about occupation.